If you know this movie, or this one, or this show, then you're familiar with the work of James Gunn. And you've probably enjoyed it too. But why? Well, after researching through his most recent movies and TV shows, I found out the 3 things he does to achieve both a great story and even better characters, proving how James Gunn is an absolute genius when it comes to writing superheroes. And believe it or not, it always starts with a bunch of a-holes. James Gunn knows that to write a good character, you first need a good introduction. Actually, 2 of them. Let me explain. Instead of getting to write inherently popular characters like Spider-Man or Captain America, his gigs consisted of forming teams composed of unknown characters like the Guardians or the Suicide Squad. So he needed to get creative, and his introductions were no exception. Star Prince Star-Lord is first introduced with an emotional scene with his mom that establishes his human background, and a second time as a cool and funny outlaw. Every monster in Creature Commandos shows their personality throughout the show, while the origin stories are told through each episode. Peacemaker gets a movie where we see a funny asshole who we're happy to see killed, to later get an entire show that follows his emotional journey of becoming a superhero. Wait, did you notice the pattern? James Gunn almost always introduces the personality and feel of the character separately from his or her backstory. But why? A good character doesn't only have to be interesting because of who he is, but also how he became that way. This is also known as death. And James Gunn has a pretty interesting way of achieving it. Let's play a game, shall we? I'm gonna show you a small clip from a series of characters, and you'll realize how easy it is to define their personality. Cool? Cool. Let's begin.
And?
Yes. I have no clue what you're talking about. Ugly dog in a cave?
What did you say?
When I find out someone murdered an innocent person or did some graffiti and I kill that person, you think that gives me pleasure?
No.
Well, it does.
Alright, let's leave it at 3. If you had the feeling the shark was cute, strong, and dumb all at once,
Bird.
that Lex was an egotistical rage baiter who hates Superman, and that Vigilante is borderline insane,
That's what I'm saying.
then congratulations, you won a cookie. This also means that James Gunn does a perfect job establishing personality in a short amount of time, even with little dialogue involved.
I am Groot.
Well, that's just as fascinating as the first 89 times you told me that.
Funny thing is, 2 out of the 3 scenes occur when we first meet the character, which proves how James Gunn cleverly relies on that first impression to set up the pillars he'll later use to further develop their story. Question is, how does he maintain and build upon this initial interest? Well, it all comes down to a mix of storytelling, character development, and a weird fixation with making even the weirdest creature human. Take a look at this. In the last 10 years, James Gunn has had 2 types of jobs. Either write a character that is anything but human, and or work with characters most people have no idea existed. Oh, and on top of that, he needs to make people care about them. How does he do it though? For the first type of job, he's tasked with igniting a sense of humanity in someone who appears completely devoid of it. Whether it's a monster, an alien, or a big fish, Gunn makes sure that we feel that they are just as human as any one of us.
Peacemaker.
Look, Rocket isn't human, but back home, he used to have a family, and losing them is something that us, as humans, can relate to. The weasel might look disgusting, but after you realize he's been convicted of a crime he didn't commit, and that he's just like any other dog with human-like proportions, you immediately think better of him. At least I did. And when Superman, the man who could rule Earth if he wanted to, gets his true purpose and humanity tested, that is where liking a character turns into caring for them. Cool. So James Gunn knows how to write the individual character. Question is, what happens when you have these characters work as a team?
What's it called again?
The Justice Gang.
No.
We're not called that. Yeah, your name is Mr. Terrific. You don't get a vote with a name like that.
The second type of job is even more interesting, as he's tasked to work with crews of unknown characters that have no business getting along with each other, but they always somehow do. Because instead of forcing bland characters to work with each other, he plays around with two important concepts: contrast and resemblance. For one, he creates conflict between the characters and their backstories to make them relatable. This is known as contrast. Let's take Nina and the bride from Creature Commandos as examples. Nina has a sweet and naive personality,
Grow a pair, fish. A pair of what?
making her the only one on the team who has never killed anyone. The bride, on the other hand, is a heartless monster and has no problem with killing. Quite poetic if you ask me. Putting Nina and the bride together offers a contrast that makes the story interesting, as their opposing ideals define the plot in many cases. This is also true for pairs such as Rick Flag and Harley Quinn, or Rocket and Groot.
It'll grow back, you dashed idiot. Quit whining.
But what happens when the characters are instead similar to each other?
He does exactly what I do, but better.
This is the concept of resemblance. Take Peacemaker and Bloodsport, two people with almost identical capabilities that constantly disagree with each other. This also leads to conflict, which can either end in rupture or bondage. Such is the case with pairs like Nebula and Gamora, Rocket and Peter Quill, or Adebayo and Economos. Contrast and resemblance ensure that the character dynamics are kept interesting, and adding James Gunn's amazing sense of humor
Fuck it, cut off all his toes, I don't care.
and stellar soundtrack choices makes for extremely fun moments. However, having good characters doesn't always mean making good stories, which poses the question: what happens when it's turn for the characters to connect with the story itself? Well, this is the primary reason as to why James Gunn completely revolutionized the way we write superheroes, and it all has to do with purpose. One of which includes subscribing to the channel. Okay, thanks, moving on. Every James Gunn project can be defined with one word, and there's a reason for this. When writing, Gunn never loses sight of the true purpose of his film or show, whether it's telling a good story or building towards something bigger, separating him from every other superhero director out there. Yes, this includes Zack Snyder. Let's talk about Superman. If you ask Snyder what his purpose was when directing the Superman movie, you could imagine multiple answers, some more outlandish than others. Is he writing a god, a hero, a friend, telling an origin, or just getting him ready for the next movie? I'll let you decide on that one. While James Gunn, on the other hand, had his purpose clear from the start: showing humanity.
But there's this playfulness about Superman. This, when he's saving a cat, he's got that wry smile.
Bye, Frisky.
The film wasn't an origin story or a cosmic level battle. It was a rather grounded story that showed us a human Superman, giving us, the fans, hope. Wait, what's that? Oh, what about the other projects? Well, Guardians is a movie about family, whether it's building one, breaking one, or cherishing the one you have while letting go of the one you've lost. The Suicide Squad is a movie about trust. Do you trust your friends?
Would you eat your friends?
Your government? Harley Quinn? Please don't do that.
I'm sorry.
Stop the cap.
Creature Commandos is all about acceptance, to the fact that sure, you might be a monster on the outside, and if you're a monster on the inside too, then great, but it is you who decides how to deal with that fact. And finally, Peacemaker is a show about redemption, coming from a character that slowly finds out that maybe peace doesn't necessarily have to be achieved by any means necessary,
Eat peace, mother.
I'm saying.
and that everyone can be a hero, including you, me, and James Gunn. Wait, what? There's a secret weapon that Gunn uses that I haven't told you about, and it might just be as important as any of the other ones. Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a superhero movie and said to yourself, I could do that better than him? If you have, then the answer might depend on which movie we're talking about. The point is, a part of James Gunn's writing and directing style is based on this one idea. Why? Because he's a fan, just like any of us. And although he doesn't think he's better than any director, he truly cares, together with actors like Cornsweet and Cena, about every little detail about the characters and their story. that can go from making a comic-accurate suit
You can have something as ridiculous as this.
This coming from a guy that wears a toilet seat on his head.
to bringing the perfect version of each superhero to life. He mostly writes anti-heroes, you know that, right? Oh, sure! Wanna know about the one trait that defines every superhero? Check out this video next. Thanks for watching.